Let's say that hypothetically, Democrats, the media, were able to push Joe Manchin, sort of the out in front, most hardcore defender of the filibuster at this point, to switching his position. That would not necessarily be mission accomplished because there are others, and not just in West Virginia, in much more liberal states that effectively just agree with him. They haven't received as much attention, but they're about to. Let's see, we've got Senator Dianne Feinstein, who broke with her colleagues who've been recently saying that they would choose democracy by scrapping the filibuster if Republicans try to block the For the People Act, their sweeping election reform bill. She says, if democracy were in jeopardy, I would want to protect it, but I don't see it being in jeopardy right now. She says we should just wait and see what happens with HR 1. And when asked if there were any filibuster reform measures she would support, literally come up with anything you want, she would say, I'd have to take a look. Right now, nothing comes to my mind.
Yeah, well, there's a reason for that. Look, Feinstein was a classic corrupt corporate Democrat for decades. The corporate media covered for her over and over and over again. As recently as her last run in 2018, she still had outrageous positions. She was against the war on drugs. A Just Democrat ran against her, Allison Hartson. She now works here, and Allison, well, obviously wanted to legalize drugs like the entire state of California, and it forced Feinstein to finally switch her position in 2018. All along, she's been like, "Oh no, drugs, marijuana is a gateway drug. We should make sure that the drug companies make as much money as possible with artificial." I mean, it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous, okay? And she was for the death penalty. She's deeply, deeply conservative, right? Joe Sandberg recently came out, very powerful and influential progressive in California, saying, "I made a mistake. I should have run against Feinstein in 2018. I should have done it. We cannot let this stand." But still, she's a little bit of a different situation because at this point, she's an obvious, no one disputes this, is in mental decline. Like she cannot remember what another senator, Schumer, what her staff told her yesterday. So that's why when they ask her, hey, is there anything you would do for electoral reform? She's like, oh, everything's great. Isn't it 1990 when I'm a Republican and pretending to be a Democrat and no one ever challenges me on it? That's what the game we've all been playing, right? Because she forgot. She forgot, no, you're supposed to pretend harder these days, right? And so Gavin Newsom openly talks about who he would replace her with because every Democrat knows that, I don't know what her particular disease is, I don't know if it's Alzheimer's, whatever it is, right? But she can't remember anything. She's in complete mental decline. But corporate media, nothing. Oh no, it's totally fine, totally fine. But Feinstein, good, and they don't even call her a conservative Democrat. This is a joke. The media is a total and utter joke. They got to get Feinstein out of the Senate instantly. But it's not just one person in mental decline who was always conservative. There's so many more. Tom Carper from Delaware is one of the most conservative senators in the whole country. Chris Coons, the other senator from Delaware, one of the most conservative Democrats for sure. But those two would rival Republicans for how anti-progressive they are in their measures. And who are they best friends with? Joe Biden. It ain't Joe Manchin, guys. We told you in previous stories. Washington Post reported there's 10 Democratic senators who are thrilled that Joe Manchin's taking all the arrows, because if all those bills came up that are in Biden's theoretical agenda, they would all vote no on all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Feinstein said that if democracy were in jeopardy, she would want to protect it, but she does not see it being in jeopardy right now. It's difficult to hear things like that and think that we're all living in the same country. When you look around, the former president just 2 weeks ago was talking about how the election was rigged and how he really won it. That repeated lie is being used to restrict voting rights all over the country, particularly for Black and brown folks. It is very difficult for me to understand how someone could not see the way that our democracy is so much in peril right now. But I guess that's how she feels. I think that it really calls into question whether or not we're sort of living in the same country. But it is very frustrating to feel like she lives in a completely different country than the rest of us.
Yeah. So many Democrats aren't going to do anything about the filibuster, and even if the filibuster were gone, Joe Manchin says that he literally opposes the For the People Act now, despite having co-sponsored it in the past. So it's not looking like that's gonna pass. Now, he does support the John Lewis Act, and he says, well, don't worry, that's awesome. Doesn't go nearly as far, but we can get a bunch of Republicans to support it. They're not gonna support it. They have no interest in that either, obviously. So what are we gonna get? What limited thing, what shield are we gonna have against the nonstop onslaught against democracy from Republicans across the country? Well, we have this, I guess. Earlier today, Attorney General Merrick Garland announced that the DOJ would double its voting rights staff while condemning a number of recently passed state laws and issuing a stern warning. It is strongly worded that the department would combat voter restrictions that run afoul of the law. That's sort of the issue, though. They're changing the laws. I understand he means federal law, but that needs to be strengthened too. Anyway, the Justice Department, notably during the Trump era, didn't hire a single outside attorney for the voting rights section. That's so weird. What an oversight. And left the department with just 15 voting rights lawyers, about half the number that staffed the section during the Obama years. It's almost like they didn't care about it at all. Garland says the department will also take measures to limit gerrymandering while setting guidelines for absentee and mail voting ahead of the 2022 midterm elections.
If I understand that right, he said we're going to double what they have now. That would just bring it back to where it was under Obama. Ooh.
It's like the refugee cap.
Okay, wow, exactly, unfortunately. So 43 states have already passed, or there's been 43 proposed legislation. No.
But 22 passed, I think.
Yeah,
48 states have had them.
Well, Salon says that, this is a direct quote, Manchin isn't moved by the GOP voter suppression bills in 43 states. So they haven't passed, but they've been proposed in 43 states, and they have passed in dozens of states.
Yes.
And so Feinstein's like, I don't see it. Manchin says, well, if there's a problem with democracy, then we should step into action. And I'm just trying to protect democracy. Well, no, but they already passed the laws. They already passed them in the red states. And now Merrick Garland comes in and says, we will uphold the law. Yeah, but the states administered the elections, and their laws now are that not as many black and brown people get the vote. So how would upholding those laws help to actually bring voting rights to as many American citizens as possible?
No, it's super easy. If federal law and state law disagree, then theoretically it'll just work its way through the courts up to the Supreme Court. Oh, wait. Yeah, there's some issues there. I'll grant you that. Bridget?
Yeah, I mean, in a democracy, we should be making it easier for folks to vote, not harder. And it's pretty obvious that that's not what's going on here.